All right, guys, so welcome back to 50 Free and Blessed. If you're new here, my channel was created to track my journey of retiring early at the age of 50. That happened January 14th, 2024. I left corporate America, not because I hated the company, not because I hated the people. I was just tired of trading my time for money, and I wanted to work on my own terms. So that's what I did 3 years ago. What I want to talk with you about on this video is 5 major things that I did to prepare me for that actual leap. If you watch my other video, you know that I was prepared. I didn't just jump without a parachute. So first and foremost, the first thing that you need to do is you need to list all of your major bills and minor bills. So going from a mortgage on your house all the way down to a Netflix account, you need to know what's coming in and out of your account on a monthly basis. There's no way to understand how to get to the finish line if you don't know what your baseline is. So list out all of those bills. Once you have all those listed, and the best way to get them is to pull your bank statements, pull a year's worth of bank statements, because you don't want to end up pulling 3 to 6 months, but you have a life insurance policy that you pay on once a year. You have a cars that you pay every 6 months or something. You don't want to miss anything in there. And if you have several banks that you have accounts at, you need to pull them from every location. And then once you have all of those, take a look at them to see, is there anything in there that you're surprised about that you didn't know that you were still paying on? Maybe you have a subscription to Disney that you thought you had canceled. Whatever it is, cancel anything that you can cancel. And then once you have your remaining bills, then you have to determine how are you going to pay those off. My suggestion is you have Avalanche, you have Snowball. Avalanche is where you tackle the largest interest item first, which that's what I did. I wanted to make sure my bill or whatever it was that had the largest interest rate on it, I paid that off first. So that's what Avalanche is. But then you have Snowball. Snowball is where you take the smallest account and you pay that off. And some people like that better because it gives them a feeling of, oh, I've taken care of that. But one thing I want to tell you with Snowball, let's say you got 5 bills and your smallest bill is $50 a month, and you end up paying off that bill. Say it was $2,000, you pay it off. Immediately, a person thinks, oh, I got $50 extra each month now. Yes and no. If you still have debt, that's not an extra $50. You need to take that $50, roll it into the next bill. So if your next bill you were paying $50, you're now going to be paying $100 a month on it. And you keep doing that for each bill as you pay it off. That's the snowball effect, which means that it gets bigger and bigger and bigger till you're paying on your final bill, which you may be paying $1,500 a month or something on it. But either way, that's what you have to do. But you want to knock out all the debt that you can. And one of the things that I did with my debt is I had 2 rental properties, plus my primary house. So 3 houses that were all under me. I paid off both my rental properties. And then with my house in 2020, I refinanced our house. During the pandemic, I refinanced our house and our interest rate is 1.75. You can't beat that. It's the lowest interest rate of anything that we actually had. So that was a plus, for us, and it's still at 1.75. Now, I could have paid that off as well because we owe $100,000 on our house, but I didn't want to put $100,000 on that when I could actually have that money in a stock market, a brokerage account, because on average you're making 7-8%. That weighs out better to get the 8% and then utilize that to pay off the house more. So that's what I did. I am not a financial expert. I'm just telling you what I actually did, what I felt comfortable with. So that was the first thing. Understand what's coming in and out of your accounts. The second thing I did was I had funded my son's 529 college account. I have a surprise from God, who is 12 years old now. When he was born, I opened up a 529 account for him. And then I also opened up a custodial account. The difference in those two is the custodial account is what he can use when he is ready for his first car at 16. That custodial account can buy that for him. Of course, the 529 is his college, if he decides to go to college. If not, then we'll figure out something else to do with that money. But that was the second thing that I did. Another thing that I did was I completed estate planning. If you are not familiar with what estate planning is, you definitely need to look into it. One of the things that happens in African American households a lot is people end up passing away, and whatever assets are there, no one knows who they're supposed to go to. There's arguments, there's all types of things, and you don't want your assets from your family member or whoever it is to be stuck in probate. And if you do not have estate planning, that is exactly what will happen. So in my estate planning, I have my last will and testament. I have a list of all my assets that are covered in that estate planning. I have my power of attorney. So if I do pass away, the power of attorney will determine what everything goes to based on what I have written in my revocable trust. They actually will read over that. They don't have to decide, anything from that point. It's in my estate planning. And then the final thing is a health power of attorney. So if I'm incapacitated, I have assigned someone to make the decision for whether they pull the plug, whether they have a certain surgery, whatever is called for that I can't make the decision on. I have determined that in my estate planning book. And I was blessed enough to be able to get this estate planning for free because my company offered, that legal support. So I jumped on it. I made sure my husband got estate planning as well to make sure that his, was intact. So that was a big plus for me having that. And every year I sit down with the attorney and I review it because there are things that can change. Kids can be born. You could get married. You could get divorced. And you don't want anything that isn't correct in that estate planning. I mean, the worst thing that could happen is you were married when you first got it, and then you've been divorced for like 10 years. And you still have your husband or wife's name as your power of attorney or whatever it may be, that all this stuff is going to them, and then you lose that. We don't want that situation to happen. So when you get your estate planning, make sure you review it every year to see if there's any updates that's needed. The last two things on my list is, first and foremost, I had an emergency fund. Everybody should have an emergency fund and put as much in there as you can. And if you're looking at retiring, you definitely want a lot in there. I had a 3-year emergency fund, meaning that when I retired, I could go 3 years and didn't have to change anything. If I didn't have any money coming in, I had enough that I could maintain for 3 years without changing anything. I, of course, did have other income streams, so I had money, that was coming in, but I had 3 years worth. They say 3 to 6 months or 6 to 9 months. I went well beyond that. And I was able to do that because of all the side hustles that I have. That was just building money up in my accounts, and I was able to maintain that. And then finally, I got a wealth advisor. I had a huge 401k that I had been working on for 28 years, with putting money in there. So when I decided to retire, I found a wealth advisor that I was comfortable with, and I rolled my pension as well as my 401k into a wealth advisor account, and now he watches over this for me. I meet with him twice a year. I can call him anytime I want. I can look at my accounts every day. I can pull up my dashboard. I can see everything that's actually going on. But I wanted to have someone who was more knowledgeable about managing that type of money than I did. I can manage minor things, but I can't manage millions of dollars. That's just not my expertise, and that is his expertise. So I look at different things like that. I do have brokerage accounts myself, but it's just money that I'm kind of playing with, nothing major, that's in it. And I did not want to be in a situation where I'm trying to manage all this money and then I lose it because I don't have that knowledge. Like I said, I retired at 50, but if you have paid attention or understand about Social Security, you can't get Social Security in, I think it's like 60 some years old or more, 65. But even with that, you can't get your 401k until 59 and a half. So when I retired at 50, I still had 9.5 years that I needed to make sure I was able to maintain that. And that's what I'm doing now. I'll talk with you about on the next video exactly how I am maintaining that 9.5 year gap. We're at 53 now. I still got a little ways to go before I can start taking 4% out of my 401k brokerage account. So hopefully this interested you and this gave you some insight. But like I said, the 5 things, start off with understanding what's coming in your account, what's going out of your account. The next thing, if you have kids or, other family members that you want to start a 529 account, do that. Everybody doesn't have kids, and I get that, but I did. Estate planning, that is a must. Whether you have kids or not, get estate planning, because regardless, you need to be able to decide where your stuff is going. You don't want it in probate. That is not a good feeling to have. Emergency fund. Make sure you have an emergency fund. Whether you're retiring or not, you need to have an emergency fund because emergencies happen all the time. A tire could blow. That just happened to me coming back from the beach a couple of weeks ago. And I was blessed enough. I had, of course, insurance, but then they were able to come with AAA and get me all that type stuff. But I'm just saying, you can't plan for that. You can have an emergency fund, but you don't know what emergency is going to happen. And then get you a wealth advisor if you have a 401k, brokerage accounts, whatever it is. Even if you're at your job and you just got money going into a 401k, if you haven't looked at it, you need to make sure that you're looking at that and that the money is going into accounts that is helping you make money. I know at my company, when I had my money automatically going in there from my paycheck, you had to go in there to tell it which things you wanted the money to go into. If you didn't, it stayed in a safe account that really wasn't making that much on there as far as interest. And some companies have where it just sits there. There's no money that you're being gained, that you're gaining on that money. It just sits in a safe account until you go in there and say, okay, I want you to buy this stock or this mutual fund, whatever it is, you have to go in there. So make sure you're doing that. But hopefully this list helped you out, that it gave you some type of guidance. If you have any questions on any of this, just drop them below. If you did like it, please subscribe to the channel. I put out a new video every week, just letting you know about my journey. And hopefully you will be on your own journey eventually. So tune in for the next one. Thanks for tuning in to this one.